Game Boy Advance is over 25 years old. Can you smell the fossil? Hey, I've been a Nintendo fan for a long time, folks. But the fact is, I grew up surrounded by PlayStation consoles. PS1, PS2, PS3, you name it. And nothing against PlayStation, the PS3 is one of my favorite consoles after all, but I needed some variety. And that's where this hunk of plastic comes into play. My gateway to the world of Nintendo wasn't virginity, but the Game Boy Advance. This is genuinely one of the best consoles Nintendo has ever put out. Only second to the Wii U, of course.
I think enough time has passed. I've been waiting for this moment even before I was conceptualized. It's time for a retrospective on the Game Boy Advance. Cause I love free will.
Colors are sick, but Nintendo didn't think so. The original Game Boy released in 1989 and marked a pivotal role on the gaming industry. Now you could play your games on the go?
No!
It was a big moment and multiple other companies followed suit with their own portable consoles. The Sega Game Gear and the Atari Lynx released 1 year after the Game Boy, and they had something Nintendo didn't: colors.
And lots of batteries. The Game Gear required more batteries than the Game Boy and didn't last shit. Like, come on man, money doesn't grow on trees. But batteries do, so you do make a point.
Due to accessibility and costs, the original Game Boy was colorless, so you had to endure with the piss filter. But it didn't matter, cause the Game Boy's library made up for it and was filled with awesome titles that marked the generation, which is something the Atari Lynx can't relate to. In the end of the day, a console's games matter the most, and the original Game Boy ended up selling over 100 million units, leaving the competition in the dust. But by the mid-90s, these were becoming outdated. I mean, to get a perspective, we were shifting to 3D games and 32-bit consoles like the PS1 and the Sega Saturn, while the Game Boy was 6 years old at this point, running worse than the NES. I'm not saying we needed an upgrade right away, but yeah, this thing needed to go. So in 1996, various gaming magazines including Electronic Gaming Monthly reported on the next generation of Game Boy. Codenamed Atlantis, this console was described as having a 32-bit processor and would possibly run 3D games. Unfortunately, since this was 1996, Nintendo shelved the idea due to being too bulky for a handheld console and too expensive to manufacture. We're talking about the same company that made the Switch 2. It was something ahead of its time, though it was too early to release it. Then, in 1998, we ended up getting an upgrade to the OG Game Boy, in form of the Game Boy Color. I mean, sure, we got the Game Boy Pocket and the Game Boy Light along the way, but the Game Boy Color was the real successor. Same graphics though, but the color upgrade was absolutely necessary.
The Game Boy Color was great for doing what it set out to do, but I would be lying if I said I didn't miss the piss filter. I mean, that's what made the original Game Boy so relatable.
F you. Shortly after the Color's release, Nintendo decided to revisit the idea of a 32-bit Game Boy successor, since they were being left behind technology-wise. So in September 1999 at Space World 1999, Nintendo announced the next generation of portable gaming. Not a Virtual Boy. It was the Game Boy Advance, but much wasn't shown. Just specs and the release date of August 2000 in Japan and later that same year in Europe and North America. Well, we wouldn't get a GBA till 2001, but some images of a GBA dev kit running a demo of Yoshi's Island, an N64 game, made the rounds on the internet, and this was great. I don't know what the overall reception was, but man, how could you not get excited? I mean, this was a 3-year-old game from a big boy console running on a Game Boy, the console that pissed itself every time you played Donkey Kong Country. Then finally, on Space World 2000, Nintendo said enough and unveiled the Game Boy Advance to the public with a jaw-dropping presentation. This was the first time that GBA's design was shown, and it looks pretty similar to the finalized version. I mean, the only difference here is the color scheme. And I wish we got that version too. I'm a sucker for blue and silver. What a great combination, but it doesn't beat brown and pink. When the f are we getting that, Nintendo? Funnily enough, the design was accidentally shared on an article by the Japanese magazine Weekly Famitsu, 1 day prior to the official reveal. So there's that. Nintendo did not hold back on this event. We were getting Pokémon, a portable Mario Kart for the first time ever, and on top of that, the GameCube was also unveiled with its set of games. A game that never came out, Wave Race, Metroid Prime, Star Wars, another game that never came out, and f***ing Luigi. These also never happened. All things considered, this was a great presentation, and the hype was through the roof, but we didn't know if this was gonna be good in the first place. The only game they showed gameplay of was Mario Kart Advance, which later became Mario Kart Super Circuit. And it left a lot to be desired. Most people complained about the track design and the big-headed characters, which were thankfully tweaked on the final game.
I'm so f***ing offended right now.
The Game Boy Advance released in Japan on March 2001 and June 2001 in North America and Europe, and was priced at $100, a bit more expensive than the Game Boy Color and the Neo Geo Pocket. The way the console was marketed in North America was weird, but that was the norm at the time for some reason. And those commercials were certainly trying to sell you on the Game Boy Advance.
It looks like Frogger Advance. Now let's keep moving.
Doctor?
Oh, that's fine, nurse. That's just Star Wars Episode 2, Attack of the Clones.
Hey, is that Spider-Man?
Game Boy Advance, more games, more fun.
Let's complain about this shit, shall we?
Alright, Grandpa, time to hit the bed.
No.
Oh my god, what is that?
A good-looking handheld. The OG GBA model is one of the best designs for a handheld console. It's the perfect mix between comfort and purple. I don't know what Nintendo's deal was on making the default GBA and GameCube color schemes indigo colored. Can we have that back? Oh, and now we have shoulder buttons. This thing ain't advanced for nothing. They nailed this design. Unfortunately, I don't have one, but I've thought about getting a modded GBA with a backlit screen, since my GBA SP loves to freeze itself and I personally prefer the OG's design. It's just so damn good. Oh right, this thing doesn't have a backlight screen. Come on Nintendo, this is the least you could do. You already did a backlight Game Boy with the Game Boy Light in 1998. Why must we live like this?
I take what I said, they could have done better.
At least they did us a favor with the cartridges. These are half the size of the original Game Boy cartridges and look so much cooler. I love this Ridge. Great memories with this Ridge right here. But oh, look at that. Game Boy games also work on the GBA. But since these are taller, it sticks out from the console, which isn't bad. Not yet at least. The GBA launched with a whopping 34 titles across various regions, of course counting Japanese exclusives. And oh boy, variety was keen with these launch titles. Super Dodgeball Advance anyone? But it wouldn't be a Nintendo console without a Mario game at launch. Ignore these, they don't exist. This time we got Super Mario Advance, a completely original Mario game for the GBA. That's what I would say if Nintendo wasn't a shitty company. Mario Advance is just a remake of Super Mario 2. Plain and simple. I mean, this was the first time this game was playable on a handheld system, so you get the pass. It's not a bad remake, it's honestly pretty good all things considered, and having the Super Mario World art style makes it the best way to play Mario 2. But Nintendo didn't stop there. Nope, they made a quadrilogy. Super Mario Advance 2 is a remake of Super Mario World, and it was the most sold of the four with over 5 million copies in circulation, making it the 5th most sold GBA game.
Yay.
I didn't notice this while playing Advance 1, but why are the colors so washed out? It's an okay version, and same could be said about Mario Advance 3, a remake of Yoshi's Island. Or Super Mario World 2 if you want to be funny. I was never a fan of this one, but I do love Super Mario Bros. 3, the final remake, the ultimate swan song, Super Mario Advance 4, Super Mario Bros. 3. And what a swan song it was! Mario Advance 4 is Mario 3 with a fresh coat of paint, making it the best Advance game in my opinion. While Advance 2 was basically a port of Mario World with some tweaks, Advance 4 feels like a new game. I love Mario 3, and this one didn't disappoint. It's really good. Though, even if the Mario Advance games were good, Nintendo fumbled on an original Mario game.
But it didn't matter, cause we got Kuru Kuru Kururin, also known as what?
This is a puzzle game where you control a rotating stick from hitting walls.
It's a tricky game, but if you get the hang of it, and that's an if, nothing happens.
American sticks were so offended that this game never released in North America. I don't know how, but they did it. We also got a new F-Zero, something I die for. F-Zero Maximum Velocity released the same day as the GBA, and it's really good. A return to basics with 2D tracks, just like the SNES. What would you expect? The GBA was powerful, but not that powerful for a game like F-Zero X, an N64 game. If Nintendo released the GBA today, this game wouldn't exist. Cause it's F-Zero. I love this franchise, and Maximum Velocity was a treat, an evolution of the original F-Zero you could say. But they didn't stop there. We got 2 more F-Zero games.
Nintendo, I swear to Christ.
F-Zero GP Legend, a tie-in with the F-Zero anime released in 2003, and it's more of the same gameplay-wise. The rest is completely different. Sure, we have some returning tracks and characters, but the lore completely deviates from its predecessors. How dare they touch my F-Zero lore? But that's to be expected. See, this was inspired by the aforementioned F-Zero anime series, which shares the same name as the game. But yeah, it's F-Zero alright. The third game, F-Zero Climax, was only released in Japan in 2004, which makes it the last F-Zero game ever released. We don't count that one. Climax takes everything from the last two games and puts them to shame. This is the best 2D F-Zero has ever looked. The colors, the textures, everything looks pristine, and the gameplay is still hard as f***. Another cool thing this game brought back was a track editor. Yup, the Course Edit mode from the F-Zero X expansion kit, which also released exclusively in Japan, makes its return, and while not being as extensive as F-Zero X's, it's still decent and a pretty awesome addition. F-Zero Climax is the definitive 2D F-Zero game, and it's available on Switch Online, so pay up, cause it's definitely worth it. I miss F-Zero, and I know Nintendo has said they're trying to bring it back, but man, it's been more than 20 years. I want to see a new one before I kick the bucket. I just wish I could race on those futuristic tracks once again, and maybe that will happen. But not today. Overall, the GBA had a banger release with tons of games, although we have to address something. 7 of the 17 launch titles released in North America were either ports or remakes.
Boy, I'm glad I'm Portuguese. We got Chorizo and Total Soccer Manager on the GBA. This is where I'd hold it if I had it.
There's nothing wrong with that, but you'll notice it becomes a reoccurring saying during the console's lifespan. For better or for worse. Oh, but we can't talk about the GBA without mentioning the best racing game of all time. Mario Kart Super Circuit.
Who the fuck says that?
It's Mario, it's Kart, it's Mario Kart. Though this time I feel the loss of a 2-digit subtitle. After the whole Big Head fiasco, Nintendo went back and gave us Super Circuit. And when I say went back, I really mean it. Cause it's 2D again, just like the first game. Man, Super Circuit is one of those games. You either love it or think it's just okay. No haters allowed. I can't even imagine the concept of hating on Super Circuit. I like this. For the first handheld Mario Kart, it does the job. We have the same roster from Mario Kart 64, and we have a neat selection of new courses. Cheese Land, Sunset Wilds, Ribbon Road, Rainbow Road. Super Circuit has some bangers, and even though they went back into basics with this one, the gameplay still remains as fun as 64. And the visuals. Oh, don't get me started with the Super Circuit visuals. These are some of the best looking tracks in Mario Kart history. Call me blind, but I love the backgrounds in some of these tracks. Though, I have some gripes with Super Circuit. Why are there 4 Bowser's Castle? Why is Mario in this game? Why did this game cost $8 on the Wii U Virtual Console? It should have been 20. It doesn't matter. Do you think the Wii U eShop cares? Super Circuit was a fun time. It wasn't perfect by all means. Heck, it wasn't even close of being the best racing game on its own system.
But boy, it was a charming little game. Did you know Advance Wars released one day before 9/11?
It's true. Advance Wars, the series every hardcore Nintendo fan knows but refuses to play. This is a turn-based strategy game similar to the likes of Fire Emblem. I've never played it. Yeah, I know, I'm an hypocrite. But from the gameplay videos I've seen, damn, it does look cool. Maybe I'll give it a shot. Who knows? I'll proudly add it to my ever-growing backlog. Can you believe Wario got to the 4th game before Metroid? Wario Land 4. Some consider it the 4th Wario Land game, but I consider it the 6th. What a great game. Wario Land 4 is undoubtedly my favorite Wario Land game. It's also the only one I've played, but I see what the hype is all about. I get it. I should check out this series in the future, cause I really want to know how Wario got to the Shake Dimension.
I didn't know it was possible.
Golden Sun is another series that got its start on the GBA. It has been dormant since the DS. Again, I've never played this one, but I've only heard good things, and it's a staple of RPG representation on the GBA. Sonic Advance? Well, that sounds stupid. It's not, I swear. See? Shortly after the discontinuation of the Sega Dreamcast and stepping down from the console race, Sega decided to shift its focus to the competition as a third-party developer, and their first projects were both released on Nintendo consoles, with Sonic Adventure 2 Battle releasing on the GameCube and Sonic Advance releasing on the GBA in late 2001. And Sonic Advance was a whole series, with a grand total of 3 games. Sonic Advance 2 is neat, and that's the only one I've played. The Sonic Advance series took Sonic back to 2D gameplay, but still retaining their adventure looks. Sonic Advance also marked the debut of Cream the Rabbit and Cheese the Chow on the second game. Sonic Advance took handheld Sonic to greater heights. None ever came close to the quality of this trilogy. Truly something that made a mark on the Game Boy Advance. Speaking of trilogies, here's Lord of the Rings: The Two Towers for the Game Boy Advance.
It looks like my robots for the GBA.
Every console from the 2000s had an abundance of licensed games, and the GBA was no exception. That's why it got stuff like Finding Nemo. Well, there he is. And most of them were published by THQ, God rest their soul. And EA for some f***ing reason. But hey, licensed stuff can be cool. Without them, we wouldn't get Game Boy Advance Video. Now you could watch all your favorite shows on the go. Cause you couldn't before. This is cool. Sure, the quality was worse than my ass, but it was an accessible way for kids to watch Super Robot Monkey Team Hyperforce Go on the backseat. Now, these never released in Europe, so Pokémon it is. How I love this franchise before it turns 30. With every new Game Boy, a new Pokémon generation comes along. Red and Blue on the OG Game Boy, Gold and Silver on the Game Boy Color, and this time, Pokémon Ruby and Sapphire on the Game Boy Advance, Gen 3. The Hoenn region was so good, and the new Pokémon were so cool and memorable. Oh, and don't even get me started with the legendaries. I got into Pokémon during Gen 4, Gen 5 and primarily Gen 6, but Gen 3 was my gateway to the franchise. And it's all thanks to this game, Pokémon Emerald, which is one of the best Pokémon games according to fans. I never got far into this one. Now, in my defense, I was 5 and hated turn-based RPGs. Until I played Persona 4 Golden on the PS Vita at 9 years old. Now it's a stable relationship. But these weren't the only noteworthy Pokémon games. Nope, only 2 years after the release of Gen 3, Pokémon Fire Red and Leaf Green came out, and these were remakes of the original Pokémon Red and the Japanese exclusive Pokémon Green from 1996. Fire Red and Leaf Green are among the best Pokémon games of all time according to many people. It's so good that they sold it separately from the GBA Classic service on the Switch for $20. Or maybe Pokémon is just greedy. Well, time to gush about this game once again. 8 years after the highly acclaimed Super Metroid on the SNES, Metroid Fusion, the fourth mainline game in the Metroid series, released in November 2002, the same day as Metroid Prime on the GameCube. Yup, after almost a decade of no Metroid games, Nintendo released 2 in the exact same day. Sometimes I don't understand you, but it worked. Fusion sold over 1.6 million copies, which ain't bad at all. Metroid Fusion is my personal favorite game in the series. It introduced the X-Parasite, the creepiest villain in the franchise, the AI companion Adam, and arguably Samus's best armor.
I'm just a plastic guy, you know?
Metroid Fusion is a game worth checking out. As a big Metroid fan, this game does everything right. It's great. What's also great is the remake that released only 2 years later, Metroid Zero Mission, a remake of the original NES Metroid. Everything down to the map and the upgrades were not only remade, but reinvented for the GBA. And we also got story cutscenes, which is a huge plus. Zero Mission is a definitive way to play Metroid 1. If you ever feel like starting the series, you should start with this one. Remember Super Mario RPG on the SNES? That was a pretty good game. It's Mario, but RPG. Imagine if they did more. I see the R and the G, but where's the P?
Sure you wanna know?
No, the Mario and Luigi series got its start here with Mario and Luigi Superstar Saga. I always loved the art style of these games, it's so goofy and cool, just like WarioWare. You know what they say, every road leads to Wario's foot. WarioWare Inc. is a spin-off of the Wario Land series, with completely different gameplay, a different art style, and a whole new cast of characters. Such new characters as 9V, 5V, and 18V.
Okay, I see the pattern here. Surely there's a character named Jimmy.
WarioWare is one of my favorite Nintendo series. Fun bite-sized minigames with Wario, who wouldn't resist? The original WarioWare did release on the GameCube mere months after the GBA release, and I'm glad they prioritized this release more. WarioWare is such a fitting title for a handheld system, and the games that succeeded it were equally as good or even better. Kingdom Hearts actually got some representation on the Nintendo console really early on. 2 years after the first game released in 2002 exclusively for the PS2, we got Kingdom Hearts Chain of Memories, a bridge between Kingdom Hearts 1 and 2, though that game still hadn't released yet. The GameCube might have lacked a Banjo-Kazooie game, but we got one on the GBA. That's right. Banjo-Kazooie Grunty's Revenge. This time we're in a top view perspective, since the GBA is weak as hell and couldn't handle the power of 64 bits. And maybe that's a good thing. Grunty's Revenge is a pretty decent game and served as my introduction to the series, and for that I'm thankful. Then Microsoft took Banjo away to never be seen again.
Okay, I'll admit, that was pretty cool.
Grunty's Revenge released in 2003, and you know what else came out during this time? Look, I love you, but not today. It was the revision, the Game Boy Advance SP, which stands for Special. And why is it so special, you may ask? Oh, the SP did a 180 with the original GBA and made it vertical once again. But this time, they implemented a clamshell design which would later be used on the DS and 3DS consoles. Improvements? This thing finally has a backlight screen. Thank God, it only took 14 years to get one. We also have a rechargeable battery, which is neat, throw those batteries on the trash. Alright, that's cool and all, but where's the headphone jack? The original GBA had one, where is it? Well, to make room for the battery, they had to ditch the headphone jack, which is a shame. But if you really wanted one, you had to buy an adapter, which isn't really convenient at all. But if it's a life or death situation here, you have no choice. I love the SP. Heck, I grew up with it. But design-wise, I prefer the OG. The horizontal design just works so well. But I gotta say, the SP had some cool special editions. There's the NES and Famicom ones, the Toys R Us exclusive Pikachu one, heck, we had ones for Zelda, Tribal Game Boy, and oh, Lime and Orange Game Boy, cause people were dying for this combination. Game Boy Advance SP. Overall a great upgrade with some downsides, but the new features made up for it. Now going back to the games, did you notice I haven't mentioned Zelda yet? Yeah, Zelda had a weird presence during the GBA's run. We got ports of the NES games and A Link to the Past, and only 2 original games, The Legend of Zelda 4 Swords and the Minish Cap. 4 Swords was actually included with A Link to the Past, the same way Bowser's Fury was bundled with Super Mario 3D World on the Switch. Unfortunately for us, this game is multiplayer, and I chose the worst time of the year to play this. So let's move over to the GBA Zelda game, the Minish Cap. This game released in 2004 and was co-developed by Capcom. In this game, Link finds a talking green cap and he gains the ability of shrinking. Is that the green Angry Bird?
That's impossible, Nintendo never ripped anyone off.
The Minish Cap is pretty neat, and I'm glad they stick with the Wind Waker art style, because this game is beautiful. I wish we got more Zelda representation on the Advance, but for what it's worth, the Minish Cap kinda makes up for it. After 2004, not many noteworthy titles came out for the Game Boy Advance, and there's a big unfortunate reason for that. In early 2004, Nintendo announced a new handheld device that would feature dual screens under the codename Nintendo DS. When the DS was first shown off, Nintendo assured everyone that this wouldn't be a replacement for the GBA, but a concurrent line of handheld systems. But I have some doubts. I mean, why would you feature a GBA cartridge slot if this isn't a successor? They obviously were planning on moving on from the Game Boy line and creating something new. And looking at the titles released after 2004, it's apparent. 2005 was a wasteland. What, 2 decent games and that's it? Bleach Advance? Those final years after the DS's release were a drought. But over in Japan, they'd receive a masterpiece, a swan song for the ages, The Last Hurrah. This is Mother 3, the third and final game, a part of the Mother trilogy. Now, outside of Japan, the series is known as Earthbound, with Mother 2 receiving that title, and a few years later we got Mother 1 as Earthbound Beginnings, which technically is called Earthbound because they were planning on releasing it for the NES, but it got scrapped. And then Mother 3 is nothing, because we never got an official English translation. Mother 3 was first shown off as a 3D game for the N64 add-on, the 64DD. This version of the game was scrapped, and then it was reworked into the Game Boy version that ended up releasing. And it is a piece of work. Mother 3 is a love letter to the franchise and gaming as a whole. I never played Mother 3 in its entirety, and the lack of an official translation really sucks. I believe that every game deserves a second shot, and the fact that this game got none outside of its mother country and f***ing Balan Wonderland did speaks volumes. I hope the day comes when Nintendo gives Mother 3 the respect it deserves and everyone around the globe can experience the world, the characters, the music, Duster. In the end, the Nintendo DS ended up being a massive success and fully replaced the GBA. Nintendo released one last revision in 2005 with the Game Boy Micro, but it never took off. The Micro was a smaller GBA and could only play GBA games, no backwards compatibility with the older Game Boys. It's a charming little saying, though playing it must be a bitch. The Game Boy Micro flopped hard, and by the time it released, the Game Boy line was beyond saving. After years of constant nothingness, the Game Boy Advance line was discontinued throughout 2008 to 2010, with Samurai Deeper Kyo being the last game released in North America. The Game Boy Advance was the last of its bloodline, and even if its lifespan was cut short by the DS, it still gave us a lot of good games. The GBA's library is among one of the best in the handheld space, and even if we got a lot of ports and remakes of old games, the original games made up for it, and even then, this was the first time some of these were ported to handheld. In the end, the Game Boy Advance ended up selling around 81 million units, which is a lot of Game Boys. It was something special, and those 12 years of waiting for a Game Boy successor paid off, and we got an excellent console that sent off the Game Boy line with a bang.
The Game Boy Advance was my first Nintendo console, and without it, I wouldn't have discovered Oui, oui. Au moins, ils ont fait quelque chose de nouveau.